I get it. When you're standing in front of a wine aisle or scrolling through Amazon, there's that nagging feeling that you might end up buying a cooler that looks great on paper but ends up taking up more space than you have, or that it simply won't keep your bottles at the right temperature. You don't want to waste money on a unit that will sit under a counter gathering dust while you keep buying extra racks to make up for its limitations. That's why I'm breaking down the Summit 24-inch wine cellar and looking at the real everyday trade-offs before you click add to cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest draw of the Summit model is its shallow depth, just 18 inches. For anyone with a kitchen island, a tight bar nook, or a boutique storefront that can't accommodate a full-size chest, that footprint can be a lifesaver. It's essentially a tall cabinet that slides right into a standard 24-inch opening, which means you can repurpose an existing built-in space without major remodeling. If you've already measured a niche that's 24 by 36 inches and you're looking for a wine cooler that won't push the wall out, this unit fits that geometry like a glove. But the shallow profile comes with a price: limited interior volume. The specs list a 33-bottle capacity. In practice, that means you can comfortably house a standard 750 milliliters bottle of each of your favorite reds, whites, and maybe a few sparkling or dessert wines, but it's not a solution for a serious collector who wants to store a couple hundred bottles. The design is clearly aimed at the occasionally entertaining crowd. Think of a small family dinner, a home office wine stash, or a coffee shop owner wanting a modest showcase. If you're planning to build a serious cellar with a rotating inventory of vintages, you'll probably outgrow this quickly. Another point that often gets overlooked is the ADA compliance claim. Summit says the unit is ADA accessible, which mainly translates to a lower front opening and a handle that can be manipulated with one hand. In real-world use, that does make a difference. If you have guests who need a bit of extra assistance, they can pull the door open without needing a lever or a heavy pull. For a home gathering, a single-handed door can be a subtle but genuine convenience. However, the compliance doesn't extend to internal shelving adjustments. Those are fixed, so you can't rearrange the interior to accommodate larger format bottles or oddly shaped cases. If you think you'll need flexibility for, say, Magnum bottles or champagne flutes, you'll have to consider a different model. Now, let's talk about temperature control. The Summit 24-inch unit uses a single-zone compressor that's built to keep wine at a stable 55 F, the classic cellar temperature. Most users won't need a dual-zone system unless they want to split between reds and whites, so for a modest collection, a single zone is fine. The real test is how quickly it recovers after the door is opened for a few bottles. From what I've gathered, the compressor has a moderate recovery rate. You won't notice a noticeable swing if you open the door briefly, but repeated long openings, like pulling out half the rack for a tasting, can cause the temperature to drift a couple of degrees before the system kicks back in. If you regularly host large tastings, you might want a cooler that advertises faster recovery or a dual-zone design. One practical strength that shines in daily use is the quiet operation. The unit is panel-ready, meaning you can line it up with surrounding cabinetry and hide the front, reducing the visual footprint while also dampening any humming noise. In a quiet dining room or a small bar where a loud compressor would be a distraction, the Summit typically runs at a low decibel level, quiet enough that you can have a conversation without the cooler dominating the background. In my own kitchen, I've had the unit sit under a countertop for weeks, and the only sound I notice is a faint, distant whir, hardly enough to interfere with a TV show. On the flip side, the panel not included detail is something that trips up first-time buyers. The cooler is designed to be fitted with a custom front panel that matches your existing cabinetry, but you have to source that panel separately. If you're not comfortable with a little DIY or don't have a carpenter on hand, you could end up with an unsightly metal face that clashes with your kitchen decor. The purchase isn't just the cooler, you need to budget for the panel, which can add $50, $100 depending on material and finish. For someone who wanted a plug-and-play solution, this extra step may be a deal-breaker. Another hidden trade-off is the internal lighting. The Summit model uses a simple LED strip that illuminates the bottles when the door is opened. That's great for showing off a curated selection, but the light is fixed and not dimmable. In a dim dining room, the sudden glow can be